I remember the first time I attempted to prepare a document for print in Adobe InDesign, and let me just say it did not go so great. I spent hours perfecting the design, mastering the layout, only to receive back a document that had blurry images, and even some of my text was cut off due to my error. My name is Ashley Harrell, and I've been designing and sending projects off to print for over 10 years now. And in this Preparing for Print course using InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator, I am going to share with you the various tricks of the trade that I learned throughout my experience. And this includes knowing the basics of color modes, bleeds, margins, and also resolution. Let's start off with bleed. Bleed is the extra space on a page that is trimmed off during printing, while margins provide the safe area where important content should not go past. Since we're on the topic of printing, all of your documents should be set up as CMYK, which is where color modes come into play. CMYK is for printing, while RGB is for web. Next, we have resolution. Selecting the correct DPI or dots per inch is vital and could make or break your design. This could be the difference in producing a poor, pixelated, rejected design or a crisp, high-resolution masterpiece. All of these aspects must be taken into account, so by keeping these guidelines in mind, you can ensure that you create a professional, print-ready document. Setting up the document correctly for print is just as important as the content itself. Now, if you fail to set up your document correctly, it can lead to an array of problems, such as pixelated images or inaccurate colors, and even the one we all dread, which is the unsatisfied client. Let's take document resolution, for example. I have two documents here. One is set for print and the other is set for web. Visually, they appear to be the same, but they're not. Print is set at 300 dpi, while web is at 72 dpi, which is standard. And here I have an image that I want to print. This image appears to be high resolution, but let's look at the dimensions. As you can see, this image won't work for print, but let me give you a visual representation of what I mean. The image fills the document for web, but is extremely small for print. And you might think, well, just stretch the image out. This is a big no-no and will likely result in a pixelated print. The pros of setting a document up correctly for print are multiple. It reduces the chances of making mistakes, and it also saves time and money on having to do reprints. And it ensures that your clients remain satisfied with the results. Therefore, it's vital that you understand why setting your document up for print is so important. Now let's get to the good stuff. I'm going to show you how to set up your print-ready document in Adobe Illustrator. Now, creating a document in Adobe Illustrator starts off with, of course, setting our dimensions, and then also our bleeds, our color modes, and the resolution. Go to File, New, and set your dimensions to 8.5 by 11 inches. Zero point 125 inches on each side, CMYK color mode, and 300 dpi for the resolution. Now we have set up our print-ready document, but we need to include margins. Margins are essential to make sure that any text or images that are printed on a page won't be cut off at the edges. Turn on rulers by going to View, Rulers, Show Rulers. Drag a guide from the top ruler to the top of the document. Change the Y value in the top toolbar to 0.5 inches. Repeat this process by dragging the guide from the ruler again, but this time change the Y value to 10.5 inches. Drag a guide from the left ruler and change the X value to 0.5 inches. Repeat this process again and change the X value to 8 inches. Lock your margin guides in place by going to View, Guides, Lock Guides. This will prevent you from accidentally moving your margins throughout the design process. The second way you can achieve margins is by grabbing the rectangle tool and make a rectangle that is the size of the document, but remove 0.5 inches from each side. So in this case, I will make my rectangle 7.5 inches by 10 inches. Go to the Align panel and under Align Objects, select the horizontal Align Center, then select Vertical Align Center. With the rectangle frame still selected, go to View, Guides, Make Guides. Now your margins are all set and it's time to design your masterpiece. Now, although Illustrator is known for its vector graphics, you may decide that you want to add a raster image into your document. Now, to do this, you can either link or embed it into your document, but you also need to remember that you need to follow CMYK color space requirements for this so that you can produce accurate colors when printed. Go ahead and open your image in Photoshop and convert it to CMYK. And also change the resolution to 300. Now, as you can see here, I decided to change up my image a bit. I want to create a mask around the plate. Save your image as a TIFF file and click OK. Now place the image into the Illustrator file by going to File, Place. Place your image onto your document and resize it so that it fills the space. You can take this a bit further by embedding your image into the file by selecting Embed in the top toolbar. Select Flatten Layers to a single image and select OK. You're probably thinking, well, what's the difference between linking to an image versus embedding? If you decide to embed an image, then it becomes a part of the document. But if you decided to use the link method, you can't move or delete the TIFF file from the place you saved it. If you do so, the image will no longer appear in the document. Now that we covered raster images, let's talk about outlining fonts. Outlining fonts helps to make sure that they appear correctly when printed. The printer you use may not have the license for the font or the font installed on their system, so it's always a good idea to outline your text before exporting. Although taking the steps to outline your font is permanent, it doesn't have to be. Always save a version of your document with text that's not outlined, so in case you have any changes, you have the ability to do it. Select the font you want to outline, then go to Type, Create Outlines. It's as simple as that. You can also right-click the font and select Create Outlines. CMYK and Pantone colors are two of the most widely used color standards in print media, and they each have their own benefits depending on your needs. So it is very important for you to understand when to use each one for the best results. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, the four colors used in printing presses that create a wide range of colors. Pantone is an industry standard color matching system that uses a particular set of colors in order to provide consistency across various mediums. CMYK is best used for shirts, flyers, and brochures, while Pantone is mainly used for one color, two color, or three color print jobs like logos and stationery. But we have a slight problem. Adobe and Pantone recently parted ways, and certain Pantone color books are no longer available within Adobe Creative Cloud. So you're probably thinking, what's a designer to do? Don't worry, I got some solutions for you. Here's option number one. You can try using Pantone Connect. Due to this split, designers will need to purchase a Pantone Connect subscription to access Pantone colors in Adobe Creative Cloud products. From here, you can add the Pantone Connect extension from the Stock and Marketplace tab in Adobe Creative Cloud. Option number two, you can use different Pantone color books. After November 2022, you can still use some Pantone libraries like CMYK coded, CMYK uncoded, and metallic coded. And for option number three, try using CMYK colors instead. If you don't mind slight color variations when printing, then CMYK is the route to take. Now you're probably thinking, how will this affect my designs where I'm already using Pantone colors? According to Pantone.com, colors will render and function as expected in Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. In Adobe Illustrator, there's a wide range of quality checks that you can perform to ensure your document meets your desired standards. Now, in this section, I'm going to show you how to check for spelling, how to also show hidden characters, and remove unused swatches. And then I am going to touch on how to outline fonts and why it's so important. Let's jump in. Let's check our document for any spelling errors. Go to Edit, Spelling, check Spelling. You can automate this process by turning on the auto spell check by going to Edit, Spelling, Auto Spell Check. You will now see a red underline underneath the words that need attention. Since we're on the topic of spelling, let's show hidden characters. Hidden characters are invisible characters that we can't see in our document or when it's printed. Some examples of hidden characters are spaces, line breaks, and tabs. To show hidden characters, go to Type, Show Hidden Characters. Take the time to go through your document and find any errors you might see, like double spaces. Another way you can remove double spaces is by going to Edit, Find, and Replace. Use the Find field and type out a double space. In the Replace With field, type a single space. Now you can go through your document and replace. Click Done when you're finished. Before sending your document off to print, it's always a good idea to remove any unnecessary designs, text, or colors from your artwork. To avoid any mishaps in the exporting process, let's remove all of our unused swatches. To do this, go to the Swatches panel, and in the top right corner, select the hamburger menu and click Select All Unused. Now you can delete the swatches using the trash icon at the bottom of the panel. If you're unsure if you set up your document the right way, then use this process to double check your work. Go to File, Document Setup. Here you can check to make sure that you've added the bleed. Next, click on Edit Artboards to confirm the size of your document in the top toolbar. Check the color mode by going to File, Document, Color Mode. Since we've performed all of our quality checks, let's export our print-ready document. Learning how to export your print-ready PDF in Illustrator can give you the highest quality results when printing your artwork. Now, whether you're a professional designer or you're just starting out, I'm going to show you in this section how to export your PDF. I'm going to cover all printer's marks like trim, bleed, and registration marks, And then also from here, I'm going to talk to you about saving your settings as a preset to save time. And then lastly, we will export. So let's jump into the section. First thing to do is go to File, Save As. Select Adobe PDF from the Format section. Click Save. Go to the Marks and Bleeds section. Select all printers marks and use Document Bleed settings. Adjust these settings according to your printer specifications. Some printers prefer registration marks, while others don't. To cut time from having to do this multiple times, you can create a preset from the settings you selected by clicking the preset icon in the top right corner. Save the preset as printready_printer's name so that you can easily find it in the Adobe PDF preset list. And that is how you create a print-ready file in Adobe Illustrator. You've learned the basics of document setup, how to prepare images and text, understanding CMYK and Pantone colors, when to perform quality checks, and lastly, how to export a high-resolution PDF. With this knowledge, you can create beautiful designs that are ready for printing. With all that said, let's jump into InDesign. Now, in InDesign, you can create just about anything from posters to magazines to brochures to business cards. Anything you can think of, InDesign can do it. But you also need to make sure that you set up your document correctly before you send them off to print. Now, you're probably wondering, well, can I just use the same settings that I used in Illustrator for InDesign? And the answer to that is not quite. The difference between the two mainly is that in InDesign has margins built within the new document setup screen. And I'm going to show you that in these next steps. So without further ado, let's jump into this section. Let's start off by creating a new document for our poster. Go to File, New, Document. Set your dimensions to 11 by 17 using inches for the units. Change the margins to 0.5 for top, bottom, and inside and outside. Adjust the bleed settings to 0.125 inches on each side. Now we're ready to design our print-ready poster. Now with our poster designed and ready for print, we now need to talk about the big three. And no, I'm not talking about basketball. I was talking about the links, layers, and a swatches panel. Now the links panel allows you to link files like TIFFs, while the layers panel allows you to organize your project by sorting it like your footers, your background, your images, and other layer options as well. And then from there, your swatches panel contains all of the colors that you use in your project. With these three panels, you will have more control over your document and create better results. First up, the links panel. Locate the links panel by going to Window Links if it's not showing up in the right toolbar. We need to customize our links panel so that we can check for any errors. Select the hamburger menu in the top right corner and select Panel Options. This is where we will adjust our tabs that are within the links panel. Under Show Column, check the following boxes: Status, Page, Size, Color Space, Actual PPI, and Scale. Let me give you a quick overview over why we need to add these options. The status feature will alert you to any missing or broken links you may have in your document. Page refers to the page number that the image or graphic is placed on. If your image is not placed on a page, then the initials PB may appear. This refers to the pasteboard. Size is pretty much self-explanatory. It is the size of the image. It's a good idea to add this tab so you can gauge the final size of your document after you export, because the larger the link size, the larger your final document size will be. Color space will show you whether the file you linked is in CMYK or RGB. Check to make sure your linked file is set to CMYK if you're printing. Actual PPI will let you know if your document is high or low resolution. Always shoot for 300 dpi and above for print work. And finally, scale. Scale refers to the percentage at which your image is scaled at. You want to make sure that this stays within 100%. If you decide to go above this amount, then you can run the possibility of exporting a pixelated document. Now that we got our links panel all squared away, we will now go over our layers panel and the settings you should pay attention to. Bring up the layers panel in the right toolbar, or you can go to Window, Layers. Double-click one of the layers to bring up the layer options. Here you can set up the layer options. For my poster, I want to show layer, print layer, and show guides. Showing the layer makes all the components visible. Selecting the print layer makes the design viewable when you export for print. Showing guides sets the guides to visible when in use. Lastly, let's swing over to the Swatches panel. To find the Swatches panel, go to Window, Color, Swatches. Or, like I stated earlier, you can find it over in the right toolbar. Throughout the design process, you may accidentally add swatches that are RGB versus CMYK, especially if you're copying and pasting graphics from Illustrator into InDesign. One way to rid this problem is by double-clicking the swatch that is in RGB and converting it into CMYK. Change the color type to process and the color mode to CMYK. Select Name with Color Value to rename the swatch using CMYK values. Now, if you want to produce a high-quality document, then quality checks are a must. Now, it's always a great idea for you to have a checklist that you go over before you send your documents to the printer. And in Adobe InDesign, I'm going to show you some features that I like to use, like the Find Change function and also the Pre-Flight panel. So let's jump into the section of performing our quality checks. The first thing we're going to check for is if we have any spelling errors. To locate them, go to Edit, Spelling, check Spelling. Go through the document and fix any spelling mistakes that you may find. Next, let's remove any double spaces via the Find Change feature. Go to Edit, Find, Change. Adjust the Find What to include double spaces and the Change To a single space. One of my favorite features when it comes to creating a print-ready document in InDesign is a pre-flight panel. Let's talk about why it's so amazing. The pre-flight panel will notify you if you have overset text. Overset text is any text that is not visible within a text frame. It will show up as a red error in the corner of the text frame and within the pre-flight panel itself. But text errors is not the only thing this panel shows. It will give you a heads up if image links are broken or missing. The pre-flight panel has an info section that goes into detail on what type of error your document contains and ways to remedy the situation. Correct any errors you may find and move on to getting rid of unused swatches. Locate the Swatches panel and click the hamburger menu icon in the top right corner. This is very similar to what we did earlier in Illustrator. After clicking the hamburger menu, select all unused, click the trash icon to get rid of the unused swatches. With our quality checks taken care of, we will now export our poster to a print-ready PDF. Before we export for print, let's take a look at some screen modes. InDesign's print preview is my go-to when I want to see my artwork without viewing any graphics or text on the pasteboard. You can achieve this by selecting the letter W on your keyboard, or you can go to View Screen Mode Preview. To export our poster to a high-resolution PDF, go to File, Export. Select Adobe PDF Print from the Format dropdown. From the General tab, you need to pay attention to the Pages section. If you're printing a magazine or a book, then go with the option of printing spreads. Since we're printing a poster, let's stick with Pages. Under the Marks and Bleeds tab, select All Printers Marks and use Document Bleed Settings. Save this as a preset to save time from having to repeat these steps in the future. Click Export to view your print-ready document. And by following the steps outlined in this section, you learned how to create a new document with margins and bleeds. From there, we talked about the big three, which is the links, layers, and swatches panel. From there, we performed our quality checks with the help of the pre-flight panel, and then we exported our high-res document. Now, in our last installment, we are going to talk all about Photoshop's print settings and how to export a high-res PDF. Photoshop is similar to Illustrator in regards to the document setup when it comes to margins. Let's dive in. To create a new document, go to File, New. Change your Photoshop settings for print to 7 by 5 inches. But here we need to add the bleed to our dimensions. Our document will be 7.25 by 5.25. Resolution will be 300 and color mode CMYK. Click Create. We need to set up our margins to mark the safe area. Go to View, Guides, New Guide Layout. Select Margin and change the values to 0.25 inches on each side. We need to add some guides for the bleed as well. Repeat the previous steps, but this time change the values to 0.125 inches. You are free to design your file now that you have set up your document for print. Now let's talk about quality checks in Photoshop. Now I do my quality checks a bit different in Photoshop than I do in InDesign and Illustrator because Photoshop is such an image-based program. So for example, I'll use the zoom tool and zoom into 100% to visually check for any pixelation, to give you an example. But we're also going to cover our usual check for spelling. We're going to verify our document size and our color mode as well. So without further ado, let's jump right into this section. Let's start off with spelling errors. Go to Edit, check Spelling. Fix any spelling mistakes that you may find. Now we need to tackle the resolution. There's a couple ways to do this. The first is via the zoom tool. Select the zoom tool and zoom into 100%. You can view the percentage in the lower left corner. Look over the graphics within the document to check for any pixelation. Another way to check for resolution is to go to Image, Image Size, and check that your document is set at 300 for the resolution. Now let's analyze our Photoshop color profile for print. You can tell what color mode you're in by the name of the file. You can also see your color profile by going to Image Mode. In our last section, we will cover how to export our document for print in Photoshop, like registration, color bars, or crop marks. Go to File, Save As. Save the file as a Photoshop PDF in the Format menu. From the General tab, if you decide that you want to keep the file layers intact, then keep the Preserve Photoshop Editing Capabilities box selected. But keep in mind that if you keep this option selected, then your PDF file size will be larger. Select the Compression tab and make sure image quality is set to maximum. Just like Illustrator and InDesign, save this as a preset to speed up the export process. Select Save. One more thing. If there comes a time when you absolutely need registration marks, then there's a couple of workarounds that you can use. You can either save your file as a tip and create the same size document in InDesign and place your file there. From there, you can export your document as a PDF with all printer's marks. Another way to add crop marks is by doing it manually. You can use the crop tool and extend the art space. Use the rectangle tool and create 4 crosses on each side of the document. And that is how you create a print-ready file in Photoshop. Now, congratulations on making it through my Preparing for Print course using the 3 major design programs, Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign. I hope you enjoyed this process and I hope that you learned a lot because it was a lot. We talked about the pros and cons of setting your document up correctly for print. We also learned about the split between Adobe and Pantone and the different workarounds that you can do. And then from there, we also performed quality checks and exported our document as a high-res PDF. My name is Ashley Harrell. Thanks for watching.